Welcome back to the OTB podcast, New Zealand's original and still the best mountain bike podcast. Brought to you by Troy Lee Designs, Smith Optics, and Filthy Bike Wash. We are back. I guess we've already done one episode, but feels to be good to be back in the hot seat, boys. Red Dog, welcome back, mate.
Yeah, great to be back, Kerry. And just for the listeners, Moki, Chris, and myself have actually formed a OTB co-host union. We have some specific demands that have not been met, so we will be sitting this one out.
Right. Oh, well.
Right.
Nice to have you here, guys.
Actually, our demands were met, but Kerry said you can have whatever negative amount of money I've put into this.
Yeah. So you guys can join in my debt.
Yep.
So, yeah. No, that'll work. That works good for me.
Wouldn't even give us food on course, the bastard.
No, I'm not giving you food. I'm not giving you accommodation allowance. I'm not giving you anything. You're not.
I'm unimpressed that I have to pay my own mortgage.
Yes.
Welcome
to 2024.
I'm just disappointed that you won't fund someone else to come on the podcast who's like an up and coming podcaster. That's the big thing that sort of that gets me. I could have moved on other things, don't have to pay my flights, my accommodation. But if you'd funded an up and comer to join us on the podcast, that's what I needed. A couple rookies.
I was gonna throw out some of the topics I had written down, but I think we'll just start on Crankworx then, shall we? It's the hot topic this week.
Well, no. Before we do that, I'm just going to sub out. But there's a couple of women that are pretty keen to come and fill the seat, and you can just have them on the podcast instead.
They'll probably do a better job, to be fair.
Probably, I would 100% back that.
Oh, 100%.
A better job.
Yeah.
They're definitely not as demanding as you are, Chris. That's for sure.
No, their laptops probably don't need updates right before the show.
Yeah.
But right, so slopestyle walkout. The slopestyle walkout. They formed a union, as it appears, and they walked out of the job. What the fuck? Like, I mean, that was not what I was expecting to read. So I was in the middle of the Mammoth Enduro, and I was like in and out of reception. And I get this message from someone, bro, with an exclamation mark, and I can't see what the message is about. And I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, I couldn't see what the rest of it was, and I was like, oh well, whatever. And then like 2 hours later, I'm back in reception, and I'm like, holy shit, the slopestyle guys have walked out and they're not competing. So that became the talk of Saturday during practice. But
it was weird that they flew halfway around the world, spent heaps of money to not do anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, I first read it and I was like, these fucking guys, like, like entitled. It was all, I just immediately was like, it's the fucking slopestyle guys, like I was ready to just lay into them. But I've done a bit of digging. I've messaged a few people behind the scenes.
You messaged Rogatkin, did you?
Yeah, straight into Rogatkin's DMs to see what the deal was. No, I just got into the group chat. I actually just put all of them into a group chat and just sent them a message from the podcast.
See replies.
Started dropping bombs.
Did you send it to the union representative or not?
Oh, that would have been strong. I should have actually just put every single one of them into a group chat from the OTB account and asked them why.
I mean,
Did you flash the media pass or the industry pass?
Oh, I was actually at Crankworx on a straight walking through the gate pass. Nice. I had the paper wristband and everything. I couldn't get anywhere.
Oh,
we pay-per-view.
Slumming it.
Yeah.
What were you doing there?
Jingles from. I went for work, but I still didn't really have any sort of actual industry path to get in, so it was good.
Went for the work and stayed.
So what's each of our takes on it then? Why don't you withhold your real information until we've spilled our opinions?
All right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe I'll go last because I got.
Yeah, I feel like you've probably got more information than Red Dog and I.
I have an opinion. I don't want a union here nor there. If they've got things they want to sort out, they should sort out. Timing wise, probably not the best. And I think the most disappointing thing was that they probably undermined the women's event a little bit. Like all the guys walking out because they're not getting an appearance fee when the women are doing this thing for free with way less money kind of felt a little bit lame. But I'm sure they have good reason.
I think it was
but
equal
maybe not
prize
managed
money.
well.
I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah.
equal prize money. So the woman definitely cashed out and
Yeah.
took their fair share home and put on a good show at the same time. But yeah, same thing. It was kind of, in one way, it elevated it because it was the only people competing. But at the same time, I heard there was massive queues of people waiting to get refunds because the show wasn't on. So
Really?
spectators were like
Wow.
walking out asking for refunds.
Sorry, are you talking about Crankworx or the Willy Wonka experience in Scotland?
It seems like maybe it's on par.
I have to admit, my first reaction was like, what the fuck? Come on, guys. But it does seem like their requests were legit. But the whole thing also seems like it was terribly handled, because it sort of seems like one of those things that, in a negotiation like that, they've got leverage, right? And their leverage is, hey, we're the show, so we're not going to turn up. But at the same time, if you overplay that leverage to the point where there is no negotiating, it's just, hey, we're all here, we're going to make you look as fucking terrible as possible. No one wins out of that, because Crankworx is going to be pretty fucked now. Like, that's the main event. Crankworx, as we'll get into today, I'm sure, is not exactly looking amazing at the moment. And I think that they may have almost done more damage to Crankworx and this event than they needed to establish their position. And it also, what surprised me in the statement that they provided, and again, this is purely as a spectator, right? I don't have the insight, but they said that this has been, 3 years of negotiations building up to this. I'm like, how do you go 3 years of negotiations and then blindside the local event organisers? Because that was the other argument from the locals, like the Kiwis who are organising Crankworx New Zealand sounded like they didn't have the people at the table who could actually meet the demands, even if they wanted to. And so it sort of sounds like they being everyone, really, not just the riders, but a situation was created where it was almost an impossible situation and there was no winning. And I think out of this, Crankworx is fucked. The slopestyle riders themselves don't look great because there's no positive outcome yet. And where does it go from here? There's no resolution. So that's my view.
Yeah. I think the biggest loser out of this is probably the team that puts together Crankworx Rotorua, the local team. Because all of a sudden, they had no control and their marquee event is gone. They got people walking out. It was already the event's already on Struggle Street, I'd say, to provide the entertainment that it has in the past. I think people have seen the same thing kind of over and over, and it just doesn't have that same excitement as what it used to. And then, they just get blindsided by something they have no control over or no involvement in. But it's, from what I've heard, you pretty much had the nail on the head, I think, Chris, with a lot of that. But Lester, what's been on your radar?
Yeah, no, I totally the same as what Chris is saying, pretty much. I mean, I'm kind of torn because I guess you can see both sides of the fence, right? From a rider's point of view, they are the show. You want to go home having not lost money to turn up to the event. The other side to that is that in Crankworx defense, it's a world tour professional event, and if you want to get money, you've got to get the podium. And it kind of sucks though that that's the way it is, but kind of that's professional sport to some degree as well.
Yeah.
So, I think there should be a nominal fee, and it should be like, here's your budget for the season. If you're on the Crankworx World Tour, this is your travel budget. If you want to blow that all on one event by staying in some Hilton or something like that, then more power to you. But if you want to go and spend that and stay in campgrounds all the time and come out and break even, then that's great too.
Yeah.
But I do think, I totally feel for the Crankworx guys. I mean, 3 weeks before the event, I think it was only 3 weeks, I had an interview with Ari for the mag. And yeah, I mean, just having, I guess, that little bit of a semi-personal connection there, and then seeing that all go down, I was just like, man, the Rotorua guys are all bust their gut to get it off the ground. I think it's fair to say that they're battling, like, regardless of who's saying it's a record year for sales of tickets and rah-rah. I mean, if you were on the ground, even if you weren't on the ground, you saw photos of the events, and there wasn't as many people in the photos as there was other years.
No.
And then, yeah, to be on the ground there, I only went for one afternoon on Friday, but there just wasn't the people. And I mean, I guess like you said, KB, if you've been looking at this for 10 years, nothing's different really. Like, and you know, for us, we're not going to keep going 10 years in a row to see the same stuff. And if there's not racing EDH could be kind of cool, but outside of that, unless you're UKB, why would we go? Like, you know, there's not really another draw card. It was rad, I think, when they had the Enduro there, because that drew a whole pool of people.
Yeah.
A lot.
This
but
is
without
the Crankworx
that,
problem,
it's
though.
kind of just, what's that?
This is the problem with the Crankworx format, where they sort of put all the events on the same level, even though you've got like the Slopestyle, which is a true like global attractive event, and it's impressive. You've got, or you should really have, the downhill, which, given that it's perfect pre-season timing, could be a really great pre-World Cup like heater event. But then you've got all these like sideshow events that all get put on the same level, and it sort of diminishes the value of everything rather than elevating the value of some of the things. And then I think they've made it worse by taking, especially the downhill, and going and putting it somewhere else. Like that downhill event may as well be in Wellington. Like it doesn't matter.
That was a
just
bad move.
It makes no sense. Like it's not Crankworx anymore. It's just a race in Rotorua.
Yeah, and
I think in their defence in that though, like they've gone for the better course for sure, because they can't use that top section, I don't think. So the bottom section is pretty patu.
Yeah.
But also, from what I hear, it was pretty well attended. It's
because it's free.
Exactly. So it becomes the only free event of the weekend.
And that's been my whole thing. I talked to a few people over the course when I was up there. I'm like, I feel like the only way to save that event in Rotorua now would be to move it to the forest somehow and make it free. That's the only way you're going to get people enthused, because people can go out, they can ride their bikes. If you're a bike manufacturer who wants to be there in Expo, you can send people out on demo rides. You could take, you can lead rides out from there if you want to kind of do that style of activation. But yeah, I think the paid thing is losing it, like it's too much money for not much.
Well, do we know what it actually costs? Because I heard it was like $25.
It's $25 a day, or $35 for a day, and then it's something like, maybe it was 25, and then it's like 85 for the whole event.
Right. So it's not too bad, really.
So you're taking
in the grand scheme of things.
So you've got mum, dad, 2 or 3 kids, and you're paying what, north of $160 to just go and walk around an event expo. Like, I'm sorry, but that doesn't look like good value if you're not a.
There was 20 exhibitors there, from what I counted.
I was about to just say the same thing, Chris. I was like, that's all well and good, but there's not a lot left.
So none of us are turning up to pay $25 to go to an exhibitor tent, right? A family of 4 or 5 people, especially at the moment, like it's not like people want to throw $160 at attending an industry expo, especially when you've got a bunch of different sideshow events. I think the biggest problem with Crankworx in New Zealand particularly is it's got an identity problem. It's like, is it a pay to enter on the day like physical spectacle? Is it a pre-season primer? Is it a world tour slopestyle event? And I think whatever, it could be any one of those things. So as you say, Kieran, it could be in the forest, and the funding could come from the industry, and it could be 100% free to enter, and you could have literally thousands of people riding around the forest, like embracing.
We look at how
what
busy
makes
that
Rotorua
forest is on
amazing.
any given weekend.
100%, right? And,
Like
and especially
this
with
would
all
all
the
be
infrastructure
solved.
they've built there.
Man, we've
This,
Sorry,
sidetracked.
Dexter.
I think, probably this could all be solved once Rod Drury opens his bike park in Queenstown. Crankworx will probably go there.
Yeah.
So,
Probably
Rod
not.
Are you
Drury, if
building
you're
a bike
listening,
park?
let's fast track this.
Please save Crankworx.
Well, that's the other thing.
Jesus,
that
we're going to
Red Dog and I
go
talked
way
about
too
this.
sideways if we carry on down this track. Do we want to go back to the slopestyle athletes walking out, or are we going to save Crankworx?
I think we've covered that. Oh, what's the inside goss? Let's go
Right.
to that.
So,
Yeah, what do you
we're
know,
still not
Kieran?
there. Okay.
no. See, we're coming back full circle. So,
That's like
So
the
apparently-
30
this-
minutes of the best commentary you'll hear about Crankworx in New Zealand anywhere. So, we've done our sponsors due,
yeah.
Weren't we supposed to be walking out by now?
Yeah, you guys were supposed to stage a walkout, but
I couldn't afford it.
no. So apparently this is what's been happening for like the last 10 years. They've been getting a $1,200 appearance fee, so they get $1,200. They get their hotel covered, so they're staying free in a hotel. And they get
There's a lot
shuttled
of people
to,
in
you know,
Rotorua
they get,
staying home in a hotel for free, though.
yeah, that's true.
Sorry.
They maybe that's part of the government funding. They get that, and they get shuttled. You know, they get picked up from the airport. They get shuttled back and forth to the race. So they're not getting rental cars or anything like that. The $1,200, I guess, goes towards covering their flights or whatever. But I mean, you look at a guy like Emilio Hansen, who won the slopestyle Triple Crown, and he probably made like, I don't know, 150 grand out of prize money of Crankworx last year. I'm sure that $1,200 is like falling out of his back pocket. Like, it's probably not really a big of an issue for him. But and apparently for about 3 years they've been trying to get it upped. So they wanted a pay rise essentially. But this is where I'm like, okay, fair enough. 10 years, inflation, it probably should go up a bit. And I'm like, fair for the riders that, they want a bit more, and seems like maybe they've been having some battles negotiating with Crankworx. But so the other thing I heard is that I think they have like 14 invited riders, and then they have 2 alternates or something along those lines. So the alternates come to the event, they practice, they do everything. If they compete or not, that's up to whether, someone gets hurt or something during practice. But they're doing the whole thing, maybe not doing the finals. And then, so what I heard this year is that the alternates got dropped from all support. So no money, no hotel, no support, basically. They were on their own. So I think that was a part of what kicked off some of the bigger issues, or kicked off some of the bigger shit that went down this year. And then, but from everything I've kind of garnered, I've talked to a few people who are kind of, one guy who's like pretty tight with the Crankworx people, but also a rider. One guy who's a rider who would know those guys. It all comes back to the same thing. I think they're all to blame, the Crankworx and the riders. So it seems like while there's been negotiations, quote unquote, it sounds like the negotiations have been like a WhatsApp message here and there from one rider to Crankworx. It's never been an actual group thing.
For it to happen like this, for them to pull the pin so soon before the event, that means they're not negotiating. That's the whole point.
No. And so it was actually quite interesting. A listener messaged me yesterday, wanted to remain anonymous, so I won't blow him out. But he
Go on.
What does his name rhyme with?
He was saying how, while at the dual slalom it started to rain, so he went to get a bit of shelter, went over to the Red Bull kind of area, and all the slopestyle guys were there having a bit of an impromptu meeting. And apparently Rogatkin was leading this meeting.
Holding court?
What's that? Yeah,
Was he holding
Rogatkin
court?
was holding court.
Yeah, okay.
And
Did he
was
have a take on his
basically
helmet?
saying, he was basically saying, well, everyone, everyone here is in the same, everyone here's got the same opinion, but only one person wants to ride. Apparently, Emil Johansson was kind of standing there looking a bit surly. So, sounds like Emil was the guy who wanted to ride. But,
right.
Which fair enough, because he's basically dominated and probably makes a ton of money out of this.
He wins all the time.
Yeah. And they're basically saying, like, well, they're not going to let it go ahead with only one person. So we're all basically in opinion that we're not going to ride. And then this was literally like right before that press conference happened. And they were, Rogatkin was writing out the statement on his phone and like rereading it and rewriting it like right there and then on the side of the like slalom course, basically. But
so
it just seems
it was as amateur.
It seems like an utter shit show the whole way around. Yeah, it sounds like there's been no real negotiations. It's maybe been a bit of like here and there of like, hey, we want more money. No, you can't have more money. But they've never actually like got together until this point now. It sounds like they need a mediator, like someone in the middle who actually is like a professional at this job to actually sort this shit out. But like Red Dog said earlier,
your services, Kieran?
Fuck no. This should have happened months ago. If they were so unhappy, this should have happened after Whistler last year. They should have gone, right, guys, we're not real happy with how this season went. We're going to do something next year, rather than, like Reddy said, fly halfway around the world and then decide you're not competing, leave a bunch of prize money sitting on the table.
But also, were half these guys here for Christchurch already?
I think
were they here for?
I think. Well, there was no slopestyle.
Some were here for. Had been here for Magazafest.
Yeah, there was some guys out here,
but I don't think. I'd say probably a majority of them weren't.
I think I missed it before. Did I tell you that the $1,200? What they wanted was that up to $2,000. So they wanted $800 extra, and that was what the whole thing fell to pieces over. So Crankworx, I think it's about $16,000 or something.
Is that being covered by Crankworx New Zealand or
that would be
FMB
that would
tour?
be the global entity, I would imagine, as paying that sort of stuff. Surely.
That's strange though, because they would.
You don't pull the pin on the whole fucking like we're not going to turn up over $800 to ride it. Like you could have gotten closer to that. Over
you sure that's all, KB?
Because
they wanted the food, man. They can't pack a lunch.
They were saying they wanted. It was going to cost. No, it was going to cost like €32,000 or something. The total package.
Oh,
increase.
maybe over the year. That would make sense. Like over the 3 events or whatever.
I don't know because Ari was on. I'm not 100% sure on that because Ari was on TV or on News Hub or something.
Yeah.
Saying I think it was €32,000 that they were going to need to come up with, and he definitely made it sound like it was going to be on the local organisers to find it.
Yeah, maybe that was including like the prize money going up as well, because they'd up the prize money. That ended up being like 37% up from last year or something. They'd up that a heap.
Whatever the case was, they didn't communicate well.
Yeah.
Exactly what it was.
This also shows you how like amateur all that stuff is, because if there was a willingness to provide, say, like an increase in funding or whatever else by either the event organisers or FMB World Tour, whoever, but they didn't have 30 grand cash on site, which they wouldn't have done, then you'd draw up a contract. You'd say, yes, cool, we'll go this far, here's negotiation, but we need you guys to get it and ride because there's 5,000 people that just driven down from Auckland to watch you. So, yeah, you've got us over a barrel here. We're going to cover it. We don't have cash on site. Work with us the way you go. But it sounds like it was as simple as we want you to put the money in our pockets now or we're not riding our bikes. It's like Wayne's World in the scene where he's like, I needed 10,000 brown M&Ms or a on stage that night.
I joke about the food because I thought that was funny. Because it's like you're asking all these big demands and then on the end it's like, oh, we need food on course as well. So, okay, that seems quite inconsequential. But they also cited safety stuff, which I can totally kind of understand. If they're not happy with the course,
if they want safety, they shouldn't do a fucking sport where you do the stupidest flipping, spinning, and try to outdo each other.
Yeah,
It's not.
but I
It's
mean,
fundamentally not safe.
but if the jumps are no good, I can kind of understand that. But they tend to have good builders and things.
I read some
But they
stuff,
would have known that
and I can't
days in
remember.
advance.
Yeah.
There was another, I think this was talking about in a global sense rather than just Rotorua, and they used Rotorua as an example in that they wanted to have an earlier ride time. I think it was an earlier ride time so that it could, if it was wet, it could be pushed out. Where they were saying, well, we're scheduled to ride at midday or 2 p.m. it might have even been. The problem is if the weather hits at 2 p.m, then we're screwed. But if we bring it back till 9 o'clock in the morning, then they can push it out through the day.
Have you seen those guys? They're not getting to the course at 9 a.m.
But also, like
on.
you can't, like,
I mean,
that, all of that sounds reasonable. But if you're going to change that, you've got to change that, like, months, because Crankworx published,
this is all achievable stuff.
and published in
100%.
the fucking Herald. Like, cool, these are the start times. Hey, make sure you're on site at 10 a.m. to see the world's best freeriders do their shit. But if they start an hour earlier and you miss it because they demanded changes 2 days before the event, like, this is what I mean. It just sounds so amateurish. It's bizarre.
So what I've nutted it out to, or what I've come up with for me is: are these slopestyle riders athletes or are they entertainers? Because if they're athletes,
great question, Kerry.
They should be competing for their money. They should be only competing for prize money. If they want to be athletes, they compete for prize money. If they're wanting appearance fees to make their money, then they're entertainers. And they should just be riding for... This is like Live Golf. They should be getting paid their money to show up and ride, and there's no prize money. But if they want to be athletes, they fucking earn their prize money, and they make their money.
Kerry,
I'm a foot in each camp on that.
Flip the question around and go, is Crankworx a competitive event, or is it an entertainment event?
Well, that totally depends on which side of the fence you are, right? If you're us, Crankworx is entertainment. If you're a competitor, then it's a competition.
But what
and
if
it's a professional sport.
What if you're the guys that have put in the event on?
Well, the problem comes when it's everything to everyone, because it's entertainment to everyone watching it, and it's sport to those who are in it. But the entertainment only exists if the riders are there. And if they don't cover the costs, the riders don't turn up, and there's no entertainment. And it's a little bit like cyclocross, for example, completely different kettle of fish, but you know, the Vanderkolks and the Van Aerts and those guys get paid huge money to turn up to cyclocross. And they take the prize money and the free whatever they get, a chunk of cheese or a big beer at the end of it. You know, like, it's kind of the same thing. I think the two can coexist. It's just getting the balance right.
Can you imagine how many Belgians are at those cyclocross though? Like, you wouldn't even fit them all in. You wouldn't even fit them all in Rotorua.
No.
But see, with Crankworx is really... cyclocross is a really interesting example, because most of the people in that crowd turn up to see Van Aerts and those guys right there, diehard fans, because it's winter in Belgium. Whereas, like, the family of four driving down from Auckland to go to Crankworx because they heard it advertised on The Rock and there was a promo running, they don't know who they're going to see. And that's kind of a point, is like, is Crankworx intended to be... Say Crankworx in New Zealand, so maybe it's different in Whistler, maybe it's different somewhere else, but Crankworx in New Zealand, is it an industry event? Is it the best in the world competing in a competitive context, and therefore probably the media value comes from online media, not in-person event attendance? Or is it the AMP show but for bikes? Like, and it should be one of those three things, but at the moment it's trying to be all three.
Maybe they need to tie it together with field days. Maybe it needs to be like field days
100%.
works.
Well, they'd triple, they'd probably quadruple. They would quadruple the
attendees. Had an
attendees.
FMX show once upon a time. I bet you part of the FMX.
It's a fine first.
and
I went to an
Luke would have
FMX
been
show. Manfield Field Days. I saw Levi Sherwood doing FMX back in the early 2000s.
This
It was like an 85, I think.
Crankworx is field days for bikes.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
man, it slaps. So.
I don't think we're going to solve Crankworx. So I feel like we've had a good half an hour Crankworx discussion. It's probably
Sorry, Bron.
What I would say is that if they can get it right,
Oh, would you?
it's still a cool event. Like, it was rad to go and see all kind of industry people in one place.
yeah.
I know that they're making moves to try, and in fact, I was out riding on Friday morning and saw industry people out riding and spoke to them, and they were like, "Oh, it's so rad because we can go riding in the morning now. We don't have to turn up at 8:30 to open our booth. We turn up at midday." Yeah. So that was a great move because that used to kill me. Is that you go to Crankworx, you don't get to ride because you're too cooked being on the stand all day. So if they can get the industry guys stoked to be there.
On the flip
That's a
side,
step in the right direction.
we have there's a distributor in Rotorua who didn't go to Crankworx.
Yeah.
I mean, like, does that kind of speak some volumes? Like, they're right there and they didn't bother going.
They don't need to.
Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Right,
I've just got a quote from an exhibitor at the exhibition.
Oh yeah.
Which is what you are if you exhibit at the exhibition.
Yes.
You're an exhibitor.
Yeah.
Does his
So
name rhyme
can
with
I
Schmidt
try and
Schmidt?
preempt what the quote was?
Yes.
Was the quote? Was it in a text? It was, "Man, that was a fucking waste of time."
No. The quote was actually, "We're only here because our brands expect us to be here." And I think that kind of sums it up.
That's a pretty common thing that I
Isn't that
talk to
literally
everyone I
what you do
talk
when
to.
you work for a brand?
No,
like
the
the global
international
brands,
brands,
you know,
the
like-
globals put the pressure on them, say, if you want to keep stocking us, part of the deal is you've got to be at Crankworx.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel sorry for some of the smaller guys who spent a reasonable amount of money to be there and would not recoup that money.
No.
So, anyway, moving on.
Right. I got some.
That was half an hour on Crankworx.
It was half an
FYI.
hour on Crankworx, and you know what? I've probably got what could be the best part of the show right here. I've been doing some digging, and I reckon I reckon
Vital rumours.
I reckon I know where Sam Hill is going to be next year.
Cyril.
Anyone want to take a stab at this? Red Dog knows.
I know where he's going to be.
Yeah. It's not on the couch either.
He's going to be on the side of the motor track watching his son race moto.
Well, I'm just going to come out with it. But
Is he going to be on a Ciron?
this one, no. So
Cesare
this
or Ari.
This one goes back to the early KB days, actually. The
He's on a
rumor
Foes.
is yes. That is what I'm hearing.
What?
Off,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and so I started going and doing some digging around on Instagram because I suddenly was like, I remember seeing Nigel Page at Foes, and sure enough, on the Foes Instagram, there's a picture of Nigel and Brent Foes together when he visited there, and I was like, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, he's got no history with Foes. You know, he was an intense guy forever. And then I went back and looked just like recently when I'd kind of started picking up on this, and Hill has commented on it with like saying couple of legends right there. And I'm like, this just seems, you know, maybe I'm reading too much into Instagram, but I think from what I'm hearing, I think this is a thing, and he'll be showing up like later this year. It won't be the full World Cup season or anything, but I believe he'll show up later this year on a Foes.
Is he racing Aussie Nationals on a borrowed Foes from the Aussie importer?
That's amazing.
That would be great if he was. Maybe you want to Ben Corey's old box.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Corey's old rigs.
So, yeah, this caught me a little bit by surprise when I put that one together. But watch this space. If that's right, if this comes true, we've broken news on the OTB podcast.
Don't you know, Brent? Can't you just ring him up?
No, but
Put
I
him
do
on a
know someone
FaceTime?
who knows. Well, I do know him, but I do know someone who knows him much better than I do, and they were like, I should send him a message and find out. So,
I think
I'm really hoping this one comes true because, yeah, put that on.
Man.
Someone go and put that on Vital Racing Rumours. Why don't you? Let's see if this one comes true.
I've definitely never seen that one anywhere.
No.
But it kind of does. I see how you've joined the dots.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like I'm kind of hoping
So
it's
you
true.
must-
Like maybe
you must
find
have
some
some
old
solid
Exonic kit.
information.
Like I've heard it from someone that I believe will know. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
You must have
So-
some solid information, because that's so left field that there has, like, it's one of those things where it's so out there that it must be true.
yeah. Like either I've been baited really hard, and I've just completely like dropped some misinformation on here. But then when I went back and I found those Instagram posts, I was like, this connection is actually making sense now. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Wow.
Maybe, and I did
What's
some very intensive investigation on this.
yeah. I went through everyone he follows just
He
to
had
see.
one of those like those boards with the strings, you
Yeah.
know, like linking. Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
Have you got a special like situation room in your house, KB?
yes,
yes, this
yeah,
is where I go to
yeah.
put all the
Banana
situations
bike
together.
situation
war
room.
room.
yeah.
Yeah, the war room.
The war room. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
got
just in there
string linking
sipping
riders
monsters.
and contract dates and everything on it. So
Wow, that's intriguing. You heard it here
So-
first,
Yeah.
folks.
that's a
The only
very
question
interesting
that
one.
I'm interested in after this is what suspensions he running, because he better be running a Kernet on that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it has to be.
I don't think Kernat exists anymore, but it would be
Oh,
great.
Well,
Well,
maybe
like-
a fifth
Breaking
element. then.
news.
The
Kernet's back. There we go. Let's drop that one.
it would be great.
Where am I going to get? Where do you get the shock for your, your slammer service these days?
Yeah, probably it. I think CJ Suspension is the local Kernat rebuilder.
Shocks.
That's
Hey,
unreal.
you know who would know? Friend of the show, who would definitely know and probably be like part of like this deal. Be Nathan Rankin. Like we'll see him
Oh.
turn up somewhere.
Oh,
Well, little do we
Is
know,
that a
Rolly's
Hill
probably coming out
Rankin
of
foes
retirement.
deal?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
Oh,
stop.
so I hear
stop.
that Rolly's off to the Volcanic Epic. So maybe that's a pre-season outing for
Yeah,
him.
let's see if he shows up on a foes XC
Yeah.
bike.
Imagine that.
And,
Can you
and
imagine
your
that
digging,
whole
did you
Rankin team?
look
Was that
out for
Chris?
any like Instagram activity from Dogboy or like the Wide Open social pages? Because there'd be something there, eh? Like we're going to
Well,
see Wide Open suddenly
I
distributing
heard.
foes. Like
I heard that's why
Good.
they weren't at Crankworx, because they were busy in the US signing contracts.
Dog Boy's coming
Yes,
back as a team
I
mechanic.
believe that.
JK is
got the
performance
jump.
coach.
Those pit jerseys, those pit shirts, the mechanic shirts are going to be out. Fuck yeah!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Missy Giobbi's
good.
back on the team too. It's all coming back around.
Total silence.
amazing.
All right, well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Moving on then.
so a bit of potential news, but man, if I'm wrong, just forget you ever listened to this episode. I'll probably just delete it out of the universe if I was wrong. But if I'm
Should probably
right,
delete it. Just delete it anyway.
yeah, probably should just delete it anyway. It'd be easier on the listeners.
Yeah.
This is one of those
if I'm right,
situations,
though,
Kerry,
for-
because we've talked about it. Like it'll eventually eventuate. Like it'll happen, or maybe it won't
Yeah.
because we talked about
It'll
it.
just
But there'll be a connection between us talking about it and it either happening or not happening.
it'll happen. Some other news I've garnered in the last week. It's been a bit going on. The Hardline series is happening in 2025. 4 rounds.
Oh, can we talk about that?
Well,
Is it before the World Cup? Because ain't nobody making it to the start line of the World Cup. The World Cup field's going.
I mean, this could go back to the entertainers or athletes story
Yeah.
as to what this works out as. But
100%.
apparently, it's Norway, Tasmania, Canada, and Wales. 4 rounds. So, do we see some? Possibly, we just see some hardline specialists appear and don't race World Cups.
So, I'm a fan of that happening, like a 4 series hardline event. Like if it's
Just don't want World Cup guys
doing
being
a
there.
race series. But I've just got one question to put to you, Kerry, Red Dog, and Lester. You're lining up as a contender for the World Cup series overall this year, and you have a season threatening injury
Jeopardising.
racing against.
Yeah, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't have been there.
racing against a YouTuber and a trail builder.
Mm.
Like,
The
how do
guy
you
with
feel?
a-
Are you
you know,
feeling good
the
about
guy
things
with
right
a
now?
chain on his bike. Like, yeah, there's a lot going
Like,
on
literally,
there.
they're on the start
What
list.
I
Like,
wanna
that's
know-
your competition.
Yeah.
Why are the brands that sign these guys not putting their foot down? And I mean, I kind of get it for Santa Cruz, maybe ish, that they want the
I don't think
exposure
it's-
because
I
It's
think
a
it's
huge
Red Bull,
pull,
not Santa
but-
Cruz.
well, that's the problem, right? But why
think
wouldn't
it's-
Santa Cruz also put their foot down and be? Why couldn't they? I mean, I don't know what goes on in the background there, but
Yeah. I have
it doesn't make sense.
I have
That
zero insight from the Santa Cruz side, but I'm like, but I guess like the argument has been from kind of all these people that were there, and what I've been hearing is like, plenty of people get hurt preseason, you know, training on their local track. They clip a stump and they eat shit and they break a leg, break an arm, whatever. It happens, but I mean, obviously you're putting yourself at a much higher risk on a track like that. But I heard that the Specialized guys, because originally Bruni and Finn were on the start list, and apparently, and again, Red Bull thing, because both Red Bull athletes. The rumor I heard was that they got Specialized to tell Red Bull or the event basically that the bikes weren't going to be ready for it, so they couldn't go because they were both just didn't actually want to go to it.
man, why would
So
you
good.
want? If you were in Bruni's shoes, what would you want to do? There's no way in the world I would be doing anything that isn't going to be helping the rest of my season.
No.
Yeah, I mean, super bummer about Goldstone for sure. But
That's-
I just
yeah.
feel that there needs to be, like, I'm here for it for sure. For the series, the hard thing is when the guys who went, like Blinky, Brooke, and George, all three of them were like, "This is sick."
Yeah.
Only one of I did a thing for the mag with them. Only one of them in their kind of messaging backwards and forwards with me said, "This isn't how World Cups should be. You know, this should be a separate kind of thing."
Yeah.
And the others were like, "Nah, this is how it needs to move. It needs to move to way gnarlier, bigger stuff."
Yeah. I don't know.
And I guess when Red Bull put an event on, everyone wants to go. It's obviously
Yeah.
a good time. So
Yeah, the party sounded good.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Well, that's what I mean,
feel
though,
like
like-
there
like
needs to be a
it's-
bit of an in between. Like the World Cups could do with maybe, I don't know, maybe not even gnarlier tracks, but they just need some changes. Like they just need to stop being the same kind of same places, same venues and that. But I feel like there is a place for hardline, but it's going to be for a specific group of people. It's like slopestyle. It's going to be very niche. Like you're going to probably, the guys aren't going to be World Cup contenders. You're going to have a group of guys who are kind of somewhat influencers, somewhat racers that can go pretty fast, and you know it's not going to ruin what they're getting mostly paid for, like we've just seen.
the problem you've got there, right, is that there's only so many riders at the top of the sport.
Yeah.
And whether they're racing hardline or they're racing World Cups, they're still the top guys of the sport. So the
Yeah.
crossover is always going to be there.
And I mean, how
But-
dull was the start of Tasmania hardline? Like watching the early
think-
riders. I mean, they're good riders, but it was just nothing until you got faster guys on the course. It was
Yeah.
pretty boring to watch.
It was no better
There's
than.
the thing that
Like, I would say it's worse than a World Cup. Watching World Cup down. It doesn't matter if the
Yeah.
features are gnarly or not. If it doesn't facilitate good racing, it's not good to watch.
Yeah, that's right.
that was the thing about watching it. I mean, we were all sitting there watching it.
Yeah, some of these
Because
guys.
on the
You-
footage,
you sit there
the
watching
features
those-
mean nothing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think we're dealing with some bad internet connections there. I think that was the thing.
It's on you.
It was almost an anticlimax because you were watching guys racing that clearly weren't racing, and then you finally saw someone who was putting a header
Yeah.
down. And it's like, okay, the racing
I do wonder
started
if-
now. I think it doesn't have to be the World Cup top 10 to be good racing. It just has to be good racing. And then if it's a series of good racing, and they're the same guys turning up, you can have a competition within that series that's compelling, and it can be in parallel to the World Cup or separate to the World Cup, whatever else. But though it needs to be a race series, or it needs to be a social media series. But it's like Crankworx. It's like it's got an identity crisis. Which one's
It's
it going to be?
confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Because, like, honestly, the like influencer guys who were there no disrespect at all, because they're good in their field, but their field is not racing on a track like that. And they didn't do themselves any justice by riding that course at all. Like, it's not good watching. So all then Red Bull have done is brought them along to get some eyes on their content, and I don't quite know how I feel about that.
No. Do you know what's a good event? The Whaka 100. And do you know what, boys?
Oh, what an event.
We are on board
Great event.
with the Whaka for 2024. We are joining forces and we will be bringing some Whaka content to the people. It's pretty exciting. So we've teamed up with them. They're going to have us on course. I believe we might have entered Chris for the miler.
Yes.
Just to see how he goes.
Go, Chris.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thanks.
We've sacrificed him.
We've offered him up.
Yeah, we've offered him
Fair
up as tribute. But no, so this is going to be pretty cool.
They're actually my feed station.
They're also going to they're going to hook up a couple of listeners too. So we're going to bring a couple. Well, get a couple of listeners in to race the Hundy as well. So more on that to come once we kind of get things a little bit more locked in. But yeah, we'll be bringing you all some Whaka content again.
Have you guys started your training yet, or what?
Nah, I'm actually on an off week at the moment.
So that means if you're on an off week, it means you have been training.
No. Basically, I just have a some sort of like chest infection that's come home from preschool. So I've just basically spent about the last week coughing a lung up.
It's
so
an
that's
off week.
That's my off week.
Yeah,
that's how it works. So you
That's
train
why-
as hard as you can until you get sick from your children, and then you're off time. That's the recovery.
Exactly what I was about to say, Murky. You've got to make every week an on week because you'll get a forced off week at some point.
Yeah, handy, 100%.
Yeah, there's no time
I feel
for
like
rest
we're
days
quite a good.
when you've got kids.
We're quite a good representation of like the different types of athletes that are turning up at Whaka, because my training.
I don't feel like we don't represent the front of the field though.
There's definitely a category
that's
missing.
that's what our guests. Yeah. No, there's a caveat to that. That's what our guests come on to the show to represent.
Yes.
But because my training program for Whaka, and I'm just going to lean into this now, is sort of the everyman training. It's just what I can do. So I'm getting out for a run
once
I'm
every
taking the
week
dog
or
for
so.
a run. Yeah. I'm going out for a ride with Red Dog on the weekend. He's just putting me to the sword. And then, just sneaking in as many rides as I can, but there's nothing structured about it. And then you've got Lester, who's sort of, Lester, I think, is kind of like, sort of like that partner in a law firm or an accounting firm sort of vibe, where he's got kit, he's got a trainer, he's got a nutritionist, but he's also like 60. So it's like he's coming in hot, but he's still 60,
Are all those people you just listed the same person, and that person is Moki?
That's Moki.
I don't know whether I should be offended or like proud.
Shit. No.
Do you have a Cervelo in the shed?
Ah, come on. I have a Cervelo gravel bike. It's the most expensive single item I've ever brought in my life.
I don't know if that made it better or worse.
I was just thinking that. I haven't upgraded it though.
Fuck it out.
It's stock standard above.
Have you got an old Porsche that's been turned into a safari prepped Porsche as well?
It's got sea sucker racks on the roof.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
The partnership bonus at the law firm must be good, eh? Yeah.
Jeez.
So good. Lester, we're going to have to put the word into the Whaka actually to get Lester tested for doping because he can afford to, because they got a big payout last year at the partnership.
If anyone's going to dope, it's the guy who works at a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
Lester's like an age group doper.
Wow, hey, did you see?
He's full of cortisone.
I don't know if you guys would have seen it at the when we were at Nationals and lining up for cross country. Old Jeremy was coming around with the iPad scanning for motors in the bikes, and he's like, "If anyone's going to be having a motor in here, it's you, masters guys."
Do you reckon he actually had like anything going on the iPad, or he's just trying to put the shits up people and he's just having a laugh? He's just like, look at these fucking guys.
Maybe
He was
you guys should have
taking
rolled up on
photos
an
of them.
actual e-bike, like just a fully obvious e-bike, and see if it picked it up.
That would be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Oh man.
I just
So good.
while we're chatting there, I was just looking at the Whaka website to see what the miler was, because I heard that the course might be bigger this year, so it's 172 k's.
Well, that's more than 100 miles though.
Yeah, 5,244 meters, and they're releasing the full course is released on April the 1st, so that must be the 100
April
as well.
Fool's Day.
Are they doing the
great.
100 as well? Are they releasing the 100 then as well, Moki, you
I
reckon?
think so. That's how it kind of reads a little bit.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
I
Or maybe it doesn't read like that. No, that's the miler course then.
I threw up some questions on, I threw up a, like ask us anything question on Instagram today. And the best one is the last reply I had was from the organizer of the Whaka. Are you pussies able to complete the Whaka 100 miler?
Yeah, we're
No.
sacrificing
No.
Chris.
Yeah, maybe we can do it as a team. We can each put in like,
Yeah, is there a relay
What,
option?
you can sacrifice me as a team.
yeah, that's it.
Maybe can we get Matt Chairbrother to be one of the co-hosts, and he could go and do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that,
Cheer brother, but he would have to do it. I was going to say he would have to do it fully self-sustained, but there'd be nothing
Do you
for him.
think-
He wouldn't take any food with him for 170 k's.
He should
No,
try and
he'd
do
just- he'd
every
have to-
event at the Whaka, like the
He should, yeah.
10k, the
It's
50k,
the 10 one.
yeah,
25.
the kids, yeah,
Eliminator.
He could-
Eliminator.
But he also
Anyone's
has
gonna pull it
he
off.
has to ride there from Nelson completely unassisted, which includes a straight crossing.
Yeah, Cook Street.
Oh my god! All right, so I'm just going to have to go. So you saw that he did the NZMTB rally,
Seven.
which was on around Nelson. It was
Unbelievable.
6 days of racing, but he did it fully unsupported. So he didn't use any of the water or feed zones during the race. This is from what I understand. I'm pretty sure he didn't. So he carried all his own stuff with him. So the first day started at the gorge, and he pedaled 3 laps of the gorge. Like that's
Oh, top to bottom.
yeah, that's
Right.
enough to
That's
enough to
nuts.
ruin me for a start. So he does that. He wins that day, so he's fastest. And I mean, to be fair, most people there weren't exactly like there to be competitive races. But Matt Beer was there from Pink Bike, and he was a pretty, handy guy. Race World Cups
Even
and
the-
that sort of thing down also.
The turnaround
Yeah.
time's impressive just to do that.
Yeah. And so he does that, but he was on a pretty loose schedule. Like he would usually start early, be kind of like first person on the course at the start of the day, and maybe be the last person at the end of the day or whatever, But so then he finishes the first day, rides to the top of Taka Hill, which is, I don't know, it was about 90 k's from the gorge,
Holy fuck.
something like that. Races the next day, which was over at that side. Rameka, I think it was, and then they finished down in at Kaiteri at the beach, Kaiteri. Everyone else was catching a water taxi to Cable Bay the next morning. He jumps in a kayak and kayaks for 6.5 hours across the Tasman Bay to Cable Bay. Through
Did he
in the
kayak
night in
to
the dark with a
Cable
headlamp
Bay?
on. Yeah, 6.5 hours in a kayak.
Man.
He then
I thought he was just
rides
kayaking the Able Tasman. That's like
no.
open sea.
Yeah. It's no
Holy
joke.
Fuck.
He was going to do it with his bike strapped to the kayak as well, but the weather was a little bit touch and go, so they decided that was not the best idea. So he didn't take his bike with him, but met his bike in Cable Bay, raced Cable Bay, rode into Nelson, so that was like his easiest day, I think, pretty much. Next day, they were heli dropping to the top of Coppermine, so he rode up to Coppermine. After Coppermine, they raced Peking in 629. So that's a punchy climb up to the top of there
Mhm.
once, let alone twice. Finished that, rode through to Canvastown, which is horrendous, which is where the Whaka Marina finishes. That's not a nice way to go because that is pretty busy, narrow, like open road. Hikes up Whaka Marina. I think that took him about 6 hours to hike up. Raced back down while everyone else was getting heli drop. He then rode back to Nelson via the Mongatapu, which is basically unrideable because it's just all massive Chandri boulders, and he was going through there in the dark. And then raced the last day, which, so I joined on the last day as like a guest rider for the day. And it was a pretty easy day as a guest rider because we shuttled up Fringe, raced Tiarakoa, which was split into 2 stages, so that made that even easier. Pedalled up, raced Turners, so that was pretty short. Got a shuttle to Ariri, raced Ariri, pedalled up Mai Tai. Oh, we were supposed to pedal all the way up Mai Tai Face. We got halfway, and they're like, "Surprise! Here's a shuttle." And but he pedalled that whole day as well, and still took the overall at the end of the week. So he still took the overall for the whole week somehow after like getting a couple of hours sleep a night. Got bitten by a rat or something one day. That was on his Instagram. Just absolute
impressive
insanity. I don't know how he survived. I was talking to him after the race, and he was like, "Yeah, I was starting to kind of like nod off a wee bit on some of those last stages on the Friday, on the last day." I was like, "Good Lord, how can you be falling asleep going down a like descent, like pretty gnarly descent?" But he was
That's incredible.
he pulled it off. I didn't think he was going to make it out of like Whaka Marina, but absolutely insane.
It's such a savage effort, eh? Like
Ridiculous.
even the times up in the gorge, that's really hearty.
I've never ridden up that hill, and I don't ever want to ride up that hill.
And I imagine he's like ridden a lot of that stuff before, but in the state that he would be in, to then smoke everyone that's there as well.
Yeah, that was pretty grim.
That's pretty impressive.
Right,
that sea crossing blows my mind.
Because that was pretty cooked.
Even putting aside the physical toughness of doing that, he would have been pretty tapped, and then he's going to get in a kayak and paddle through the night in the open sea. Like, that's on another level.
Yeah.
I don't imagine he's got a whole bunch of time to train.
Boys in that.
No.
In kayaking.
No. I said this to you boys in the group chat, and I'm going to say it again. I can't help but feel like because that's a talent, right? That's something else. But it almost seems like he's not necessarily getting maybe the recognition that he could deserve, or what he's capable of is almost in the wrong realm. You know, like everyone's there getting helicopters at the top of Coppermine, which, if you ask me, is a bit of a waste of a helicopter ride. But
yeah,
he's doing this incredible thing, which is just, and it's in isolation, just fucking mind-boggling. But it's almost like it's a sideshow for this event, and then he still goes and wins the event, right? So it's like, it almost, because he's doing it sort of as a sideshow to the event, it undermines how incredible what he's doing actually is.
But I think you threw it out. Maybe his talents are wasted in this, and that he should be doing some like Godzone type adventure racing or something, where he can just suffer through like 2 days of sleep deprivation and just constantly charging on.
Totally. I mean, it's not for us to say what Matt Fairbrother should be doing with his time. Like, I mean, certainly not. But like, you do get the sense that, like, he's built for like a Godzone. Like, that's what those guys do. Anyway,
it's insane,
amazing. Incredible.
Right?
Maybe they just need to run the event with no transport and shuttles, and it's just like the hard man enduro.
Just for everyone. I don't think it would probably get as many people as it did for the actual event.
Yeah,
how many did it get, Kieran? Was it well attended?
I think I couldn't tell you what the number was, but it seemed pretty decent. I would say it was like 90% foreign, like people who'd come from overseas for it. There was a few people around. There was at least
Oh, really?
one OTB listener. Yeah. So met a bloke from Invercargill who listens to the show. But,
yeah.
no, it was good, but yeah, decent. It was
interesting that
decent. Like
such a
quite a
big
few people there.
overseas. That's cool.
Right, must or bust. This is a segment where each of us are going to bring a topic of whether this is a must or a bust. So I don't know how to explain it much better than that. So I'm gonna start in my top left of my screen, which is Leicester. You've got anything for the must or bust?
No, I don't. To be honest, I didn't prepare anything for must or bust. But put me in last, coach.
I have
Put me
one.
in
3 days
last.
ago.
All right, Red Dog, you're next.
Yeah,
I've had a busy week. All right.
I thought of this
Busy
on
on the
the
doping
floor
schedule.
when I was going for a quick run, and I know KB is hot on this topic. Night riding.
Nah,
It's coming
bust.
around that time of season.
Oh,
Time to
must.
do the light take.
100%
KB, I've already
must.
done it. It's a must.
100% must.
100% must.
Yeah, I'm a must in that
Yes.
camp as well.
We have a majority.
I fucking hate
Yeah.
night riding.
Oh yes.
You can tell the guy who works from home, and I use work in air quotes, and lives
shit.
within riding distance
Yeah.
or close to trails.
Yeah.
Yeah, guilty. So the last night ride that I can remember going on was in Christchurch, and I was riding with Scalzi, and I came around this corner on Daz's or Shaz's in Vic Park, and there was like a just front wheel size swallowing hole that you couldn't see in the shadows, and my front wheel just disappeared into it, and I chest slammed and was winded in the dark, lying on the ground. And that was pretty much where I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'd rather go running. I go running in the winter at night. I'd rather
Do you
go for
wear
a
a
run.
head torch running?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I just
Oh,
run
see,
around
this is
Sometimes
new
I just run
information,
around
eh?
town under the streetlights.
Yeah. He's splitting hairs here.
Yeah, I agree. That's a bit odd.
Yeah, I reckon. I don't know. I think you need to. I think you need to re-explore it. I'm a firm
Yeah.
must on night riding. In fact, I look forward to night
Yeah.
riding season.
It's great
Nah.
because you can do like an hour's riding and then go to the pub in your slippers.
Oh,
good.
it's so good. There are a few things, like
Oh,
on a
yeah.
cold, crisp night.
Oh yeah, mate.
No
great.
rush
No.
to get home because it's already
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah.
If you want to ride your bike in winter and you have a normal job, you have to have lights and go riding at night, right?
Especially if
pretty
you're a
simple.
partner
That's-
in a law firm.
No, because he
I
doesn't,
know,
have, he doesn't have to go out
exactly.
at night.
My point. You're just
Yeah.
agreeing with my point.
No, he'd be on the Peloton doing a training session on the Peloton.
The Peloton, yeah.
He's got
The
one of
live
those full
Peloton
Peloton
coach.
setups that like changes like angle
Yeah.
and everything, and he's got it set up next to the Porsche with the sea suckers on the roof and everything.
Yeah.
He's got like a 75-inch flat screen in the front of the garage, and you know what else he's got in that garage? You know what Moki's got in that garage? He's got marine carpet on the floor.
I love how we've just given him this persona, and it's just
I'm just going through there going, no, I don't check that box. Not that box either. I don't have marine carpet on the garage floor. I do have marine carpet in my
There's a
office.
surveillor in the
there
garage.
it
That's all I
is.
need to know.
The Savella's
In your
not in the
office.
garage, it's in
You're
my
on a
office.
boat.
it's.
Anyway,
All right, Chris, have you got a must or bust?
go, Chris. I've got one to follow up with Chris. So.
All right.
Okay, XC helmet and trail kit.
Oh,
Oh, I like it.
Only if your name's Nathan Rankin.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
fine
which
with
means
it.
that
Yeah,
that makes
it's
it.
good with me.
But that so, Kerry, you've just kind of given it a blanket must. Because it's like,
yeah,
if
I'm
it's
torn.
okay for Nathan Rankin, it's okay for me.
No, I don't think
Nah.
it is though, because not everyone can pull it off.
No, it's not okay.
Nah,
No
see,
way.
if I'm in baggies, I've got a visor on, and if I'm in my lycra, I've got no visor. That's how it goes.
I'm going to just fill you on just how shallow us accountants can be. Is that there's been a time when I haven't gone riding because I've had baggies and only unpeaked helmet.
But what were
Yeah.
you riding?
Really?
Yeah, on a mountain
What
bike.
bike? No, but what mountain bike?
I was on my Slash. That was the other thing. Like you can't
no,
ride an
no, that's
enduro
fine.
bike
No,
on
I'm okay
with
baggies
that.
with no peak.
You like
Nah.
this is the nuance of must or bust here, because you're not going out on the Slash with the XC helmet or without a peak. Like I'm there for that, but equally, like, see, this is what I'm finding some conflict now, because I'm going out on a ride midweek on my XC
Oh,
bike,
he's died.
and I'm not wearing a peak
I'm
on the
just said
XC
he
bike.
can't talk. I'm
Because
going
if
to
I'm
say
wearing
no,
a peak
he's
on the
wrong.
XC bike, then
Yeah.
what shoes am I wearing, right?
Nah,
There's a flow-on effect, right? Like, so you've got the peak. What shoes are you wearing, Mogi?
Nah, if you have a peak, you have to be wearing. Nah, so see, I've got
Trail
a little
shoes.
slightly different nuance than you have, right? So the peak has to match the baggy shorts.
Mm-hmm.
You potentially might have a lycra-ish style shirt on, at least a
A half
quarter zip, a half zip.
I'm here
But
for
the
this because I
shoes-
know where you're going with the shoes. The
The
shoes have to match
shoes
the bike. Yeah.
Yeah,
The shoes have to match the
yeah.
bike. So you've got to, if you're going to be on the big bike, on the enduro bike, you've got to be running downhill skate style shoe.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you're on the XC bike, it's got to be XC style shoe. Oh, good, we got rid of Chris finally.
Thank God.
Thank goodness.
That's my proviso.
Yeah.
And I just really struggle with it. But I'm happy
My
to
internet
wear
connection broke out
the
for all
XC
of that,
shoe,
and I'm disappointed because
baggies,
that
peaked
was
helmet on
giving
a
me all the
cross-country
guidance
bike.
I needed.
That's all right to me.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Like if I'm just going out on the XC bike and I don't really feel like getting the Lycra out, like I'll just wear a trail kit with a peaked helmet on the XC bike, but still the XC shoes.
XC shoes, yeah.
It can't be too baggy though. The kit.
So-
Right?
Nah,
Just
we're not
be
talking
sort of-
downhill
so-
baggy shorts.
We're not putting 2010 like downhill shorts on.
Not any kind of Azonic downhill shorts,
No.
Steez.
Yeah.
I've got a secondary
Good though.
question.
To be honest,
then.
though, to me, it's not so much about the look; it's about the function.
Yeah, the fit and the feel.
Yeah,
Who loves
I
some
commit,
Lycra though?
I commit fashion
Get it
crimes
right,
all over the
like-
shop. So sometimes I turn up to a ride and I know Chris is going to be there, and I just it's good just to have something a little bit off just to get a comment.
Just to keep
You
him on
just
his
like
toes.
poke
Like
the
XC
bear.
shoes with long pants.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Get
can't
'em.
fuck with that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
That'd get
You'll
me
get
too.
me there.
that
Yeah.
they'll get me
Okay,
too.
so
I got a
where
bit
do you
of a
draw the line on
sideline story
Lycra?
about some of that, but that'll have to go off air.
All right.
All right.
So
So my
Lycra
must
on
or
like a
bust
casual ride?
is I had an interesting message from a previous guest on the show, Mr. Byron Scott, the other day, wanting to get a gravel bike for winter, but one with flat bars.
Nah, bust.
So
Don't even
flat
get
bars
bars.
on a
Like
gravel
a
bike.
commuter.
I'm definitely a bust.
Nah.
I said just buy a XC hardtail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
fine.
kind of with you.
Yeah.
Passionately against it, but you'd always got to drop it. I think.
My thing kind of comes from, as a mountain biker, if you're on a flat bar gravel bike, you're going to want to ride it like a mountain bike, and you're just going to destroy the thing, and probably end up crashing at the same time, and blow your tires to bits. So either get a hardtail
Nah.
or get a gravel bike.
Drops only on a gravel bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
Hope
when
you're
you're
listening,
commuting
Byron.
it, you can get in and out of the cars way easier.
Yeah.
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 Nah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think
that
that's
was easy.
good guidance
Good.
for
All right.
a friend of the show.
Mine, and it's one that I've been seeing more and more lately, and given that I'm a father of two young boys who both are quite enthusiastic on riding bikes now, parent-run Instagram accounts where everyone's trying to make their kids, their 3-year-olds, into the next Jackson
Nope.
Goldstone.
Nope.
No,
Bust.
turn it off.
Yeah.
Hard bust.
Bust for sure.
Go fuck yourself.
Thank you.
Can you
This
direct
isn't only
me?
me.
Yeah, that's more.
Can you direct me to one of these?
Yep.
I won't
I'll
look
have-
at it, but
I'll have to find some and send them. They just seem to like. I looked at one, and then I just seem to be getting them popping up in my feed page now, of course. And I'm just like,
But-
nah,
It's a hard no.
like we don't need
No.
it.
The reality is that those kids, by the time they're 18, if they got an Instagram page now, I hate to say it, but by the time they're 18, they ain't going to be riding bikes anymore.
The reality is, probably 90% of them, if they're like 3, 4, 5 years old now, give them another 4 years and they probably won't be riding bikes. They'll be into fucking playing PlayStation or something.
Yeah,
Like,
quite likely.
good.
They're just like
Good.
even
Well,
the logistics
it looks
of that.
like
How
Chris
does
has
that work? Like
disappeared
at what
for good,
point?
so yeah, it's kind of handy.
Well,
At least
I've
we got
been here
rid
the
of
whole
him.
time.
But I had I had a few Instagram questions. Quite a lot of them. I'll just have to address it.
Below the line.
I'm
Some of them
going
are
to
below
address
the line.
it. Thibaut de Prella, we're not addressing. We'll leave that at that.
We
If
will
you
not
wanna-
be touching on that.
If you want to read the information, if you want to read anything about that, go look in the Vital Forum. There was quite a few on there. Quite a few slopestyle ones that we've already questioned. Strawhen asked how buggered I was after the Mammoth Enduro. Yes, I was pretty cooked. I was cramping up. It was remnants of the Whaka near the end. I was getting some good cramps.
Whoa.
It was a lot of walking. I walked up so many hills. It was just all steep liaisons, and
Crazy.
the walking got me. Tom Bradshaw. Tom responded to your question sticker with nothing. So thanks, Bradshaw. That's good. He didn't actually give us anything.
Say hi to Brad for us. Brad Thomas.
Right. Is glue a good way to build a bike? From Rob Moore. We didn't actually talk about that, did we? Bernard's front end falling off.
I gotta say, like, if you're going to be building prototype bikes out of that stuff and racing them, and then realize that it's not done right, like, just do it right in the start.
I think
don't know. A race is not a place for testing stuff if there's any variance on perfection.
I think one of the bits that not that I enjoyed the front end falling off, but when they realised that, like, oh shit, we probably should get out of this camera shot, and they went to the podium, and you hear Lockie say to Jake Jewett, who's sitting on the hot seat, has that ever happened before? And Elliot was talking, and you couldn't quite hear it, but I'm pretty sure I could hear him saying something about, like, yeah, I ran one into a tree and basically did something similar. So yeah, that was quite amusing because it was really clear for a start to listen to. But they they threw out the bit of an explanation. But I've also
plus the John Clark front end came off.
That was amazing
stuff. Yeah,
that was the best part. That was on the Pressure Police Instagram.
Yeah.
You videoed it for me and sent it through to me.
Yeah,
like
because I know you don't do Instagram.
That's how I ingest social media. If it's really cool or interesting, KB videos it, screen videos it, and then sends it to me.
That's gold. No, that was a really good piece of content. That won the internet for sure.
Right, so the other thing I had to cover was actually most of the questions were stuff that we've already talked about, or stuff that we're not going to talk about. Pink Bike have brought back fantasy. Should we start an OTB fantasy league again?
Yes.
I think we could actually put some prizes together for it this year too.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Yeah, we could do it. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe
I'll get on it. I'll find some prizes.
Didn't Cow win last time?
He did. He didn't know how to work it or anything. So that's good. We'll get on that. I'll find some prizes. If anyone wants to be the title sponsor of the OTB Fantasy League for the World Cup season, slide into the DMs and let us know. But otherwise, I think that's been a good wrap up for.
I'll
what's
tell the
happened.
accountancy firm they might be able to sign up that.
Yeah, good. Might be a bit of cash. You reckon?
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, we're looking for some tax write-offs this year. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. Right. Well, if you've watched us on YouTube, thanks for watching. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can also watch us on YouTube. So we've got multiple different outlets at this point, but good to be back for another year. We'll have to set up a bit of a schedule of when these are actually gonna show up. Try and keep it somewhat consistent. But thanks, boys.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, lads.
See you next time.
Straight to bed.
Goodbye.
Come out.